All right, I'm here at the Texas coast, staying in a little condominium for Mother's Day. Alex Jones here shooting a special report. I'm going to tell you about a police state story that we went through. But first, I wanted to just tie it together with today's news alone. Without even doing 5 minutes of research, this is the stuff just everywhere. NSA Google spy ties can remain secret. Air Force document, drones can be used to spy on Americans. There's another one. New York police are stopping and doing frisk on the side of the street with no warrants. They just pull cars over checkpoints tens of thousands of times a year. But this is happening all over the country. No more Fourth Amendment, no more nothing. And this stuff is just absolutely everywhere. In places like Williamson County, Texas, north of Austin, where I live, they arrest people when DVDs are like 3 or 4 days late. I've seen that. So this 4-year-old being visited by the police for overdue library books, that's nothing. Geraldo Rivera, this story we did was up on drudgereport.com as well this week, just a few days ago. He talks about how they actually grab his genitals and squeeze them and how legally that is a form of rape. It absolutely is. My point is, this is just the stuff going on and happening. Look at this. Police use Predator drone to nab North Dakota suspects. The reason I raise this report is, if you go back to that report that was on Drudge, it's an Infowars.com story. And when you go to it, the first commenter on Infowars.com, at least a few minutes ago when I was looking at this, the top commenter is like, oh, what's the big deal? Stop taking all this out of proportion. So again, I think things are blown out of proportion. So they're flying over. They're not going to be spying on you. The police have announced, and the feds have announced, and the Air Force has announced, Homeland Security, that they are using spy satellites and blimps and drones to even look through our walls with ground penetrating radar and infrared, okay? So you're ignorant, and then you're saying that we're the people that are fearful. Oh, like the TSA would never grope us, so they'd never be on the streets. Now they're on the streets of America doing warrantless searches, and so are the police. In London, they're putting missiles up, part of psychological warfare, to convince everybody that terrorists are everywhere. Now, this brings me to my next point. They've announced all over the U.S., as part of a UN move, that public lands, over 80% of the West is public lands, are off limits to humans. Many beaches are no car, no swimming allowed, any way to harass you, national park off limits. And the word is they're moving to make the national seashore in Texas that way, where you can't get in past your ankles and can't go up in the dunes or anything. And they're just getting everybody ready for that. Well, I've been going to the national seashore since I was born. My parents have been going there since they were married 40 plus years. And while I'm staying at the condo for Mother's Day, my parents are staying in a pop-up camper out on the beach. And after 40 years of going there, we have never had a park ranger talk to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we got talked to over and over again, and everybody that we saw out there, they talked to everyone. And we're like, don't walk in the dunes. It's not against the law, but you just better not do it. It's not safe. Don't feed the seagulls. I mean, if a chip rolled out from the, where we were eating from the wind, and a seagull flew by, they were just instantly there. Just police everywhere, blue lights on constantly. Here's Human Events reporting, and I took some photos and shot some quick videos, some of the encounters that are actually on this phone I'm shooting this on. So I'll have that on the nightly news by Monday when I get back today and tomorrow for the Infowars.com website and the radio and the nightly news show. But here's Human Events reporting how they're shutting down beaches and parks everywhere. And they want you to know that you're a slave, and this is the new system. So there it is, the longest stretch of underdeveloped barrier island in the world, rich in natural and cultural history. This whole thing now is just infested with armed Department of the Interior, National Park Service people, And they would stop at every car, or almost every car that was parked, and talk to them. And then driving out, they were pulling people over left and right. I said, I'm not staying here. I said, let's go get a condo last night. My parents stayed there, and I said, let's get out of here. And driving out, they were waiting at the park exit pointed, and we were driving about 40 miles an hour. The speed limit was 45 leaving. And they came off their jurisdiction and pulled the car over that was behind us, who I know wasn't speeding because they were behind us, and we were going below the speed limit. And it was like when you see birds attacking fish in the water en masse, just in a swarm or a feeding frenzy, or sharks attacking. I mean, it was just a feeding frenzy. And here's what's even crazier. This is one of the craziest points. Driving in, the park ranger said, "Oh, I'm a listener, Alex Jones. Appreciate your work." I thought, oh, wow, maybe I'll be left alone. I can't go to South Texas because 100 miles in, they've got Border Patrol checkpoints searching citizens and harassing you, but letting the illegal aliens go. This is well over 100 miles from the border, but I can't even go now to it. Oh, and there's all these giant cameras at the entrance to it. I mean, literally, it's like a joke. There's like 20-something cameras when you first drive in. And when you leave, and they take flash photos of your car. The whole world is like a giant airport, police state. That's their plan. And if we put up with it, the sky's the limit. Yesterday, we were down at the beach, and people were walking by talking about, they don't look like a security risk. And my wife looked at me and she said, this is the new American nomenclature. This is what people are into from all these TV shows and the rest of it. The real security threat, ladies and gentlemen, is a big government. The real security threat in history is government killing 282 million people, or to be technical, 262 million people in the last century in non-military related operations. It's called democide, or murder by the government against the population. And they're now getting us all ready not to use the national parks. The real national security threat, the real security threat, the real threat, our founding fathers said, and history shows, is government. Like George Washington said, government is like fire, a dangerous servant and a fearful master. So after 40 years at the national seashore, they are now letting everybody know you are slaves, and henpecking and harassing everyone to train the general public to be in contact with police. We have 7+ million people in prison, double what China has, biggest prison population in the world. The state is hungry. It knows the system's imploding by design into Agenda 21, and they're here to let you know that you are the property of the government. And the new national pastime is groveling to bureaucrats. The giant underclass who could never get a job is now just going to be made the enforcers over those of us that produce. That's what's happening. Well, that's just a small smattering of some of the police state news today. And the UN announces they want buffer zones around the park shut off to humans, and it's now happening. And you better visit the national parks soon, because just like in Greece, where they've handed the land over to foreign banks as collateral, they're getting ready for that right here. It's the same system worldwide, and has nothing to do with the environment. So I won't be going back to the national seashore. They win. The globalists have taken it over. I'm going to start steering clear of national parks too, because soon you won't be allowed to go into them anyways. That's how America now works. They win. New World Order wins until we stand up and say no to this bureaucracy and the servants that have taken over the government, telling us that they're the masters. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But again, that's evil founding fathers. I guess I'm evil too then. I guess you're evil. I guess freedom's evil.